Let's get more on China trade. Coming, Steve Mosher, Bully of Asia author. Steve, great to see you. For those who don't know, the China one-child policy, this is the guy, when you were an anthropologist in China, right after the opening of China, you were the one who really exposed that system to the world. You did extraordinary work in that regard.
Well, thank you. 400 million people are missing in China because of the one-child policy, and they now face a nationwide labor shortage.
Let's talk about what we are trying to do, which is to make a deal with the devil. I think you would agree with that characterization, but we're dealing with a government that sanctioned and encouraged companies like Huawei, which Susan was just talking about, to engage in theft. How can you do that?
Well, you can do it because you've got a law in China passed in 2017, which requires every company in China, and certainly including Huawei, to cooperate with the government in gathering intelligence and cooperating with the intelligence services in doing essentially their bidding. So every company in China, has to have a party cell in it if it has more than 50 members. Every company of any size has to have a party member on the board of directors. And if you're the chairman and I'm the party representative, guess who has the real power?
But given that reality, how is it possible for us to make a deal with China that restricts what they can do with their own companies?
Well, this is, in effect, a state-owned company, and this is one of China's national champions.
They, of course, deny it completely.
Yeah, of course they do. They say it's owned by the workers themselves. There's no doubt there's a connection between Huawei and the Chinese military going way back to its founding. So, look, you've got a company that China expects to use to dominate 5G, which we've talked about, means that if they can interfere with the routers that they control, they can get access to all the telecommunications traffic around the world. They can shut things down. They can turn things on and off. That would give them the high ground of the Internet, and we don't want to let them have their finger on that switch. Is there any way we can
open up at least enough to satisfy the companies in the United States that want to deal with that market, to satisfy the trade dealers that are trying to knock down a deal that would satisfy the market, which has been just on a rumor of some kind of talk about getting a deal with Huawei, has sent the market up today? Is there any way we can work out a trade deal that would work?
Well, we'll see. I mean, Trump has been focused on getting China to buy more U.S. goods, to go from $110, $120 billion a year to $200 billion on some sort of set schedule. And all we've gotten from China, from Xi Jinping, are vague promises that he'll make huge purchases. I think he has to fulfill that promise before Trump will move forward on Huawei. So I think there's a lot of uncertainty surrounding Huawei. But make no mistake, Xi came to the G20 summit as a supplicant. He's got problems in Hong Kong. He's got political and economic problems at home. He's got an economy that is experiencing a serious downturn. And so he wanted to get Trump's finger off the kill switch for Huawei. I think he's done that temporarily. He wanted to get Trump's to stop the increase in tariffs. I think he won that particular conversation. But make no mistake, Xi Jinping has a lot more to lose in this conflict than Trump or the United States does.
As I mentioned, you were in China when it was coming out of Maoism, the worst period, when tens of millions of people were killed as a result of their communist policies. Is it sinking back into that era of Maoism?
Yeah, it has been for 6 years. Ever since Xi Jinping took power, he has more power today than any leader since Mao Zedong, arguably more power than Mao, because Mao was just the head of the party. Xi Jinping is the head of the party. He's the head of the military. He's the head of the government as the president. He's also the head of all these leading groups which control various aspects of the economy and politics in China. So he's at the center of everything. He's the first core leader, according to party documents, since Mao Zedong. So he's a very important guy in China. And as soon as he took power, David, what happened was this. The party produced a document a few months later, document number 9 of 2013, which says that the rule of law, that property rights, that civil society, that a free press, all these things are simply Western dangers that the party must resist, because if we adopt any of these things, it will interfere with the continuing power of the Chinese Communist Party. So when we go to China and say, oh, we want you to respect intellectual property rights, we want you to stop stealing our intellectual property, we want American companies to compete fairly in China on a level playing field under the rule of law, they basically don't want to do that, because that means giving up the power of the party to dictate events.
But you say they. Let's focus on Xi. He's not sitting on solid territory right now. We mentioned Hong Kong. The economy itself is maybe in contraction right now. How much longer can he continue to sit on a wobbly foundation like that without falling himself?
He's made a lot of enemies. There are hundreds of thousands of Communist Party officials who are in prison right now on charges of corruption. Their real crime, of course, was that they were not members of Xi Jinping's faction. And so he's decimated these other factions. In doing so, he's made a lot of enemies. And make no mistake, Hong Kong demonstrations are not just about Hong Kong. They're about China itself. Xi Jinping has 2 million Chinese in Hong Kong demonstrating not just against Carrie Lam, the executive of Hong Kong.
These are live pictures, by the way, inside the government offices in Hong Kong. Go ahead.
Yeah, Xi Jinping himself is on trial in Hong Kong. The Chinese authorities have been kidnapping Hong Kongers off the streets of Hong Kong. That's why they want the extradition bill, to give the cover of legality to their illegal acts that they've been taking so far. The other thing they did in 2017 was they tore up the Sino-British agreement, which was supposed to stay in place until 2047. They tore it up, said it has only historical value. If you're a citizen of Hong Kong, and I lived there for several years, I speak Cantonese. I went to the Chinese University of Hong Kong to learn Mandarin and Cantonese. So I speak it fluently, have lots of friends there. If you're a citizen of Hong Kong, you see your freedoms eroding away. If you're a citizen of the People's Republic of China, you see the people of Hong Kong demonstrating against the Chinese Communist Party. And what does that do? It gives you heart. It encourages you to take a stand as well.
Steve, for so long, as Hong Kong emerged from Maoism, from a state that was hundreds of years behind the time of the rest of the modern world, into one that became more modernized, we were all hoping, particularly conservatives, that the economic freedom would engender political freedom. That did seem to be going along and happening for a couple of decades. What happened? What turned it bad?
It died at Tiananmen. At Tiananmen, the leaders of the Chinese Communist Party, led by then-leader Deng Xiaoping, decided to maintain the leading role of the Chinese Communist Party and to maintain control at all costs. That's why they shot down people in the streets of their capital city. They ran them over with tanks. They then went to the hospital.
So it's not just since the emergence of Xi?
No. It began at Tiananmen. That was the conflict then between Jiang Zemin, the then president, and Deng Xiaoping, who came out of retirement, and Jiang said, let's negotiate, let's talk to the demonstrators, let's stop over bureaucratization and centralization of control, let's allow civil society. Deng Xiaoping said, no, we must maintain absolute control. Bloodshed followed.
Steve Mosher, thank you very much.